Hi, my name is Jonathan Collins. I'm a part-time professional photographer. I don't do it full-time. But I wanted to make a video about buying your Rolleiflex. If you're new to photography, if you're new to film photography especially, you may have heard of the brand, you may have heard of the camera. With all the focus on street photographers like Vivian Meyer, for instance, there's been a huge surge in popularity in this camera. So I wanted to maybe offer a couple of tips on what you should be looking for, where to go, what kind of models to buy, maybe some to stay away from. I think it'll help if you're going to spend a decent amount of money on a camera. It may help. So let's get to it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was when you're buying your classic camera, whether it be a Rolleiflex, a Rolleicord, Leica, Hasselblad, Nikon, any classic camera, you want to do your research. You want to make sure that you are familiar with the brand, with the models that you want, what kind of format they're shooting, whether it's 35mm or in this case medium format film. You want to know the pluses and minuses of your choices, what fits your budget. So I would definitely go online, look at the forums, look at the websites, and really dig in and start doing the research, because it'll save you a lot of time and money in the end. Knowing what you want, knowing what you pay for, what your budget is, what your budget allows for a camera. Everybody wants the best camera out there, whether it be like a Hasselblad, like I said, but you have to be realistic with your budget. Everybody's budget is different, obviously, but also you have to be realistic and know what's available. And number two, I think it'll help you because you'll know the things to look for. eBay is great, but there's people there that are selling cameras that are not camera people. They won't know everything about the camera they're selling. They may have found it at a garage sale or an estate sale or a grandfather's attic, whatever it is. They may just be selling it not knowing much about the camera. So the more you know, the better for you in the end, obviously. And especially with Rollie, we have two different lines. You have the Rolleicord, which was marketed toward the amateurs, the amateur market, and you have the Rolleiflex, which was marketed towards the professional, advanced amateur market. So you have two different lines there, two different cameras, pluses and minuses of both, but definitely some things to be aware of. I'm not going to get into all the differences in every model, cam, Rolleiflex in this video, but just be aware that there's an amateur model, Rolleicord, and there's the pro model, the Rolleiflex. So if that's news to you or that helps you in any way, I'm glad to hear it. But just know that there's a lot of options with Rolleiflex. They were made for approximately 60 years. So there's a lot of models out there. There's a lot of variations, a lot of price differences. So we'll get into that. And but really the biggest thing is do your research. So the next thing we're going to talk about is budget. But the two models that we're going to talk about with the Rolleicord and the Rolleiflex, which is what 99.9% of the people who are going to be looking for these cameras are going to be buying. We're not going to really talk about the Rolleiflex, the T model, or the baby Rollie, or the tele Rollie, or the wide angle Rollie. There's different ones, but the 99% of the people that are going to be looking for a Rolleiflex online are going to be buying either a Rolleicord or a Rolleiflex. Again, the Rolleicord was marketed toward the amateur, so didn't have the features that the Rolleiflex did. And so with that, I would expect to pay anywhere from $200 to $500, depending on the condition. And again, if you do your research, you'll know what models you're looking at based on your budget. But you're going to spend about $200 to $500 on a used Rolleicord. Rolleiflexes are the more desirable of the two. They had more features. They were marketed toward the professional photographer, so they have more features. Those can go anywhere from $200 to $3,000. It's quite a span. I get it, but the reason for that is because they had so many different variations of the Rolleiflex, and with the earlier models were. And actually the later models, but the models were basically separated by letter designation. So you had 2.8F version and a 3.5F version. So you had a 3.5 A, B, C, D, E, F in that order, and the same thing, the 2.8s, larger aperture, more desirable by most collectors. So you'll pay a premium for the 2.8 models. But there's so many different cameras on eBay and KEH in different states of repair. You really have to look closely, and I'll show you a little bit of that on my 2.8F that I bought recently, and we can show you what to look for on these cameras, what to avoid, things to questions to ask, and things that you want to consider before you get into one of these cameras. With any Rolleiflex or Rolleicord, you want to look at the outside condition. The leather can be really faded or ugly. The knobs and dials, make sure they're in one piece or the way they're supposed to be. The backs here can get scratched. Some of these cameras were really beaten up, and they show it. But this one in particular is a really nice example. All the leather's clean. All the metal is nice and shiny. You know, the number one thing you want to look for in a camera when you're doing it on eBay or KEH, you want one that has a clean lens, no fungus in your lenses. That's really a deal breaker for me. If somebody tells you the camera is as is, I would run away. Do not touch an as is camera. You don't know what you're getting, or for parts, they might say for parts, run away, look for something else. But really the key is look at the physical condition of the camera. If it's been well taken care of, like this one has, then I think you'll be in good shape. But you want to see also if it had a CLA, a clean lube adjustment. These cameras are over 60 years old now, and if they sit for a while, the oils and the lubricants inside can dry up, and that can be a problem. Also, you want to look at shutter speeds. Make sure the shutter speeds are correct. So like I was just talking about the shutter speeds on these cameras. These cameras are getting up there in age now, so they have, if they've been well taken care of like this one has, they'll have good shutter speeds. So I'll just check it at 1 second, see what we got. Yeah, it's a hair long, but that's to be expected on a camera this age. When I get the camera, first thing I'll check is the shutter speed, and this camera will wind it. But not unusual to have a little bit of longer shutters than half a second. We go through the motions, go through all the shutter speeds here. But on a camera like this, these are really precision instruments. They really do are built like a Swiss watch, and so they are worth. If you get a nice clean example like this and the shutter speeds are a little off, they're definitely worth getting serviced. You can get people, you can go online and see there's a guy in California, Harry Fleener, excuse me, that does servicing. There's other guys that do services on these cameras. They're not cheap, but definitely worth it if you're going to spend the money. If you're going to spend the money on something like this, and this one can easily run you $1,000 or more. It's worth it for the $200 or $300 to get a service, to have another 30, 40, 50 years of life. And these cameras have been going strong for 60, 70 years now, so there's no reason they can't continue to provide great service to their owners. So, but yeah, another look at this beauty. So to wrap it up, some final thoughts, but I wanted to talk about our buying again real quick before I get into what models I like and which ones I would avoid. I would say, number one, one of the things I forgot to mention was buy the seller. eBay gets a lot of flack, and some of it rightfully so, but they do a lot of things right. And one of those things is the seller's ratings. And I always buy the seller. In other words, I look at that seller, what kind of reputation they have, what kind of reviews they have. Do they take returns? That's another big, important consideration to think about, because you're going to spend a lot of money on these cameras. You want to make sure you can, if there's an issue that wasn't disclosed, maybe you can return it. But buy the seller. Make sure that the person you're buying from, try to get them communicate with them beforehand. Also, sometimes you may see a camera that you can have, they might accept offers. Another way to save yourself a couple of bucks. But really the key is look at the seller's reviews and ratings. Make sure you can buy with confidence from them, and make sure they take returns if there's anything that wasn't disclosed, or that turns out you don't like, or change your mind, whatever the case may be. But that's really important. Now, as far as cameras I would look for, the Rolleicords, I would go any post-war Rolleicords. The 4, the 5, the 5A, and the 5B are generally what I would look for. Clean models, they can be had relatively cheap. Everything's getting expensive now because of the popularity of Vivian Maier, and she was a big Rolleiflex shooter, so something to think about. But those are good cameras. They'll give you very, very high quality photos with a little bit different feel than the Rolleiflex, but good cameras nonetheless. In the Rolleiflexes, I would go with the 3.5 C, D, E, and F. All right, so post-war 50s on through the end of the line. So as you go into the later models of Rolleiflex, they get more expensive. So as the added more features, as the line got longer in length, the more expensive they became. So the F models are very, very expensive. The 2.8F, the 3.5F. I have a 3.5E and a 2.8F. Both excellent cameras. Can't go wrong with either one of them. If you need the extra half a stop, it's not that big a deal for the 2.8. But they're very collectible and they hold their value. So if I ever sell it, I'll make my money back. But anything the C, the D, the E, and the F, 3.5, 2.8, can't go wrong. The ones I would avoid, probably the number one is the baby rollies. Those were shot on 120. Those shoot 127 film, which is very difficult to find nowadays. So they're basically you're not gonna be using that camera. The other camera I would avoid from Rollie is the Rollie Magic. They were automatic cameras. Once the selenium light meter and it goes out, it's basically useless. It's a paperweight at that point. So if you see a Rollie Magic and there's some cheap price, they're getting a Rolleiflex or a Rolleicord, you're not. You're getting basically a very, very entry-level amateur camera that's probably not going to give you very long a service life, because once the meter goes, that's it. There's no way to fix it. So avoid those. The Rolleiflex T, I know we didn't talk about it much, but the Rolleiflex T is a good camera. It's the middle of the range. It's the middle range between the Rolleicord and the Rolleiflex. Good cameras. They shoot 120 film just like the Rolleicord and the Rolleiflex. they're just not that abundant for whatever reason. But they are good cameras, so like I said, I didn't get into it very much, but if you happen to see one for a good price and it's very clean, it is in between. It's a higher level than a Rolleicord, not as high as a Rolleiflex, so something to think about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment. I'll see if I can help you out, or if I can point you in the right direction. And I'll leave a link to the other videos and some of the another book on Rolly that I highly recommend. I'll put a picture of that so you can see. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.